This video was sponsored by Revopoint. So in last week's episode, we prototype tested Modstac. That's a system I designed to make everything modular and stacking and upgradable and downgradable. It's one of the biggest issues that I run into with the builds I do on the channel. Sometimes the space looks completely unfinished, and that's something I really wanted to solve with Modstac. I've not made any progress with the kitchen on wheels. I just stolen the hinges for the cabinet drawer because I needed those for a different project. But we'll continue with it quite soon. Today I'm actually focusing on the compute card. The compute card is something I built quite a long time ago, and it houses my Windows rigs and all of the accessories necessary to make those Windows rigs function. And this thing has also become the biggest pain point in this entire workshop because of how necessary it is, right? It needs to interconnect with all of the machinery, the laser cutter, the 3D printers, and I want to rebuild it in a single stack instead of a multi-stack, so it's a lot smaller and a lot more compact. And the main reason I'm doing that is because I'm turning this thing into the dedicated 3D scanning station. Now, 3D scanners are some of the more useful tools I've used on this channel for reverse engineering projects. They allow you to essentially capture an object and convert it into a digital form, and it's one-to-one. And in that way, you don't have to go back and forth with a caliper all the time. Complex geometry becomes really easy, of course, because you just have it right there. But as soon as you would like to 3D scan larger objects, like for example a bike, you're going to have to stick markers all over it, right? And that's totally doable, but it takes a little bit longer. Now, Revopoint actually reached out. They sent over the Trackit SR, which is a really awesome scanner because it has a separate unit which keeps track of the scanner itself, which has all of those markers on it. And then that way you don't need to stick markers on the thing that you're scanning anymore. You can just go about your business and 3D scan stuff completely clean. Now this tracker actually comes with a really nice tripod, actually really decently, like this is a good tripod. I'm probably going to reuse it for my camera stuff. But it takes up a lot of floor space, right? It's a tripod, doesn't have a lot underneath it. There's certain things I like. I like that there's a cable sleeve around the cables that you can then latch onto the tripod. I really thought about that, so the cables don't get ruined. But I'd rather still integrate this tracker into the Modstac system, so it's a single little cart, and we can roll it to wherever we need, and it's not like taking up a bunch of space. You'll notice that with a lot of the objects that I'm 3D scanning in this video and a lot of the other videos, it's absolutely not necessary to 3D scan them, right? The reason I do 3D scan them is that when I'm out and about, I actually have these 3D scans on my iPad and I use them as a design reference. Some things though, like building components for bikes and that kind of thing, 3D scanners become extremely useful. In this video, I'm primarily laser cutting all these components out of OSB. I had a lot from the prior project and it's extremely cheap. I mainly wanted to see if the structural integrity was good enough for the system and also the aesthetic of it if it's not too busy. And for the bottom component here, I'm using the second iteration of the Modstac system where we have little hooks that we can put into place to connect multiple units together. Somebody in the comment section, she had a really good suggestion where you would have a longer sheet with little teeth in there that you would slide into place. I'm first going to prototype this one, and then I'll prototype that version in the next video. For this next 3D scan, because it's a little bit larger of an object, I chose the cross laser line pattern and put it into a shiny metallic object. This is a home battery system, and during the scanning process everything went really quite smoothly. You can see in the left corner over there where the scanner is in relation to the tracking head. That ensures that you're within the boundaries of where you can scan. I primarily want to integrate the home battery system into this little cart for moving it around when I need to unplug it from the wall, for example. I don't necessarily need to turn the computer off, but it's just nice to have a battery system connected onto it. Also to save your solar panels. Like there's a peak load problem, right? If my computer sucks 800 watts, then the other home batteries can't actually push enough into the household to compensate for that. In the end, I couldn't quite get the complete front of this unit in one go, so I turned it around and then did another 3D scan, making sure to get enough information so that we can actually match these up or line them up in the software. Now there's an auto align feature, of course. You just press the buttons over there and it does all the work for you. It's really great. So the next thing I'd like to 3D scan is my workstation. This one will be implemented on the compute card as well, next to the battery unit. So in this case, again, I'm using this more as a design reference instead of actually 3D modeling components for around the 3D scan and that kind of stuff. So I just don't forget that, you know, there's a power socket there that needs to go through into the bottom stack, and of course all of the cables for the computer as well. And that's really where the bottom stack is for as well. This is going to organize all of those cables and we're going to shove everything in there and don't have to deal with it later on. I always make sure to do a dry fit before I actually do the glue up, because I've noticed that there's certain differences in terms of how accurate the laser cutter is, and especially the difference between, you know, left to right and back to front, like X and Y. And so sometimes something doesn't quite fit into place and we just need to modify it a little bit or adjust where things are placed. And of course you'd like to find those mistakes before you glue everything together and then have to take it apart and modify stuff in a rush. Some of the stuff I'm still questioning about the Modstac design is that I'm actually painting all of these blocks instead of painting the actual Modstac units themselves, and these are all going to be replaced, right, after a certain period of time. So I'm not sure if I should save my paint for the main units and then leave these the wood color, or if I should continue doing what I'm doing. I think the vast majority of the people on the prior video actually understood why I have these inserts over here and why I put the wood plates in place, but there was at least one person who didn't understand. Like, I'll upgrade these if I want to, of course, later down the line with 3D printed components. But like SSD caddies that you can just slide into place with the cable being held in place there, a little Ethernet port situation where you can unplug the Ethernet cable if you need to like troubleshoot shit. So the top one is a 30cm stack, and this is because I need a little bit more room to actually implement some of the components into that. Another thing I've been really interested in with Modstac is I want to implement aluminium extrusions because I make a lot with both systems, right? And some of the things I considered was placing aluminium extrusions on the outside, placing them on the inside over here with 3D printed components, but the only way to really figure out what the best option is just try stuff and iterate when something doesn't work out, or when it does work out, just test the strength of it. I noticed that in some capacities this system was already compatible with aluminium extrusion because these holes actually exactly line up with it. There's a little bit of overhang over there, but we can fix that in the 3D print. So these custom corner pieces are again 3D printed in carbon fiber reinforced PLA. So if we just drill out that hole, make it a little bit bigger and connect the whole situation, that should be fine. And then of course we have all of the plates that we need to put in place, so I have those 3D printed pugs again, and that will allow us to bolt it onto the design. I was actually quite shocked by the positivity on that last video as well. I don't think I've seen a single negative comment on that video in general, which is quite strange for YouTube, and the internet in general is just a very unfiltered place, right? If you talk the wrong way, if you look the wrong way and somebody can't really relate to you, people just run their mouth very quickly. Now, as for the implementation of the aluminium extrusions over here, I think I'm going to have to experiment a little bit more with the placement of these. I think it looks cooler if they're placed on the outside instead of actually inside of the stack itself, and we probably have to go for 30-30 instead of 45x45, which I have here. I was considering using this NAS to store all of the 3D scans that I have available, so I'm also able to access them when I'm not at home or out and about and I don't have them on my iPad yet, for example. As for the NAS itself, it's a metallic shiny object that's dark and kind of blackish, but the 3D scanner seemed to be able to pick this up quite nicely as long as it's perpendicular to the actual surface. So if you scan this at an angle, it's not able to do it. But if you're right in front of it, then it will 3D scan it. So it does require some skill. I hear this from other YouTubers as well, like this is not as easy as it looks sometimes. You have to have a feeling for it. As for all of the specs and the nitty gritty of this 3D scanner, they did send me the complete kit and stuff. In these first videos, I'm mostly focusing on the feeling of it. Like, does it feel stable? Does it feel easy? Does it feel nice? Just because that's the most important part for me as well. I just want something that works and that feels nice to use. And that's something I think a lot of people underestimate about the tools that they use. It's also why I model on the iPad. It just feels like I'm more creative over there because I have this pencil, I'm just messing about, I can do it all over the place, and I'm not stuck in a chair behind my computer. And in general, there's always something to be said about the usefulness of it. I mean, in this case, it was very useful for ascertaining where, those bottom brackets need to be placed, how high they need to be in relation to the front 3D printed component. And for that, 3D scanners are really awesome. Not that efficient with the larger 3D printer over the bottom over there, so I could have added some kind of fan to get some airflow in this whole situation there as well. At the same time though, I think it would be really cool to actually add some larger fans on the side and make it a design element in general. So one of those tools that seems really nice as a concept is one of these bolt ratcheting situation thingies, which is universal, so it fits any type of bolt. In operation though, and I'm probably using it wrong, but in operation though, this is horrible. It's better just to get the right tool, even though it's more limited for that particular job. This is another 3D scanner I got from Revopoint a little while ago, and I'm using it here to 3D scan the at your head so we can implement that into the design as well. I mean, most of this project has to do with quick access. I really like the case that the tracker came in, but if I have to unpack stuff every time I need to do a project, it becomes very tedious. So I just want it to be, grab the scanner, turn it on, it's directly connected to the computer at the bottom over there, and we can start 3D scanning. If you've made it this far into the video, you might want to consider subscribing to the channel, so if the next episode of the compute card build drops, then you'll be notified of that and you'll get it in your feed. Otherwise you might never see another one of my videos. The last component here is of course the tracking head, and I did have a pole of sorts that I got from a different project sometime where Workstation sponsored it or something. I have actually considered also mounting it a bit close to the ground over there, so it's a bit more stable, but I feel like it gets in the way of all of the nice storage opportunities we have down here. So in this case I used a longer thread from the inside of the stack, and that holds this pole situation in place. I might actually want to upgrade this with some sheet metal fabricated parts so it looks a little bit more stable. It is held in place really quite firm, and it's just at the top there it wobbles a little bit sometimes. The cables then drop down into the stack itself, and the rest of the panels that I'm not using yet, I filled those up with the coloured ones that we made earlier. So I started removing all of the components out of the original compute cart here, and I'll be reutilising this setup for a 3D print station of sorts where I can do time lapses and stuff. Remove the placeholder computer, I'll be upgrading that one soon, and then put my main workstation in place, adding all of the cables through the bottom stack over there. One important thing to note is that I wrap the cables around in the bottom stack so that it pulls on that instead of pulling on the ports of the computer. This thing is rolling around all of the time, so I need to make sure that the cables don't ruin anything. But in terms of functionality, this thing is fully functional at the moment. I just roll it into place, point the tracking head at whatever I need to scan, grab the scanner, and I can start scanning straight away. So there's still some stuff left to do with the compute card build. There's still some integrations I need to do, cable management and that kind of stuff. That will be for the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it gave you some inspiration, and hopefully see you in the next episode.